Hello and welcome back to another episode of the RotoWire Fantasy Soccer Podcast. My name is Andrew Laird, Senior Soccer Editor of RotoWire. Joined on this Wednesday, December 23rd, by Jordan Cooper to talk about Saturday's big Boxing Day slate. Jordan, finally Boxing Day, 6 Premier League matches, but still just 3 on our slate.
Yeah, I almost feel like I wanted the 2-3 o'clock games on the slate. We're so bad as
we're so needy
players. Right, we're just like, oh, well, we don't want to have a slate that's like 10 hours long, but then it's like, well, it's Boxing Day. It's supposed to be a day of all soccer. And then, like, okay, because then we'd be talking about who's starting for Man City. I guess you have to plan for that, but now you don't. I mean, I have a 555 ticket for the big contest, and hopefully, I won't get screwed with the guy getting scratched 2 minutes before lock, and me being like it was about 5 to 7 seconds on my global swap. And imagine, weirdly enough, I still was able to, I lost money, but I didn't like lose all my contests with Cavallero 0. Yep. But, I would have switched it over to Mitrovic and he would have had 3. So it's not like it, right?
I did switch to Mitrovic.
That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to global swap because I saw it in the RotoWire Discord. Because I put on the soccer Discord when I'm playing soccer because it's the best place for quick news. And typically you don't have like that many late scratches in soccer anyway. And my soccer list doesn't have like the team accounts. So unless like a reporter or something or a site has that. So yeah, I saw it at 1 minute before lock. I saw it in the RotoGrinder Discord. So I'm scrambling on my phone because I'm like global player swap and just because I'm playing a couple of GPP lineups, and by the time I searched for him and got whatever and I pressed her and then it said nope, can't edit. I'm like, why can't you edit? And I see it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, no, it wasn't 10 o'clock. That was the late game.
Right, it was whatever it was,
or maybe it was the middle game. Whatever it was. I'm so
used to lock being 10, whatever the lock time was.
Well, the reason why I guess it wouldn't have mattered, but like, was it the late game? The only reason I say that because there were no other options. Like if you had Cavallero in a forward spot, you were
I had him in a forward spot.
Right, me too.
Mitrovic was cheaper.
Yeah, that is frustrating. I believe the person who brought it up in Discord actually saw it on on TV. And he said, like, the people talking about it were just so nonchalant about it. They were like, oh, and Cavallero is scratched, Mitrovic starting his place. And he was like, wait, what? And, like, the sites, the team Twitter is always, like, relatively slow. It was definitely 3 o'clock Eastern because I remember the tweet was 2:57. And it's just like, God, like, no. Anyway, I was a little surprised at first that they decided to go with the 2 early games and then the 2 10 a.m. and 1 12:30 because I thought they would do the 1 12:30 and 2 3 o'clock. So I'm like, it's a little more time to get people to play.
Got an NFL slate. You can't mess with the NFL slate.
That's right. So that's why we have it. FanDuel is doing a full 5-game slate. So if anybody, they usually do kind of the later ones anyway. Yahoo's not out yet, but I assume they do it as well. So. But yeah, we don't have Man City or Everton on the DraftKings slate, which kind of feels like a Jordan Cooper slate.
Not written. Nah, I think the pricing. Yes, I could make a very non-goal oriented lineup.
Yeah.
We have 3 games, no big favorites. So the first game is Aston Villa. They're minus 101 current favorite at home to Crystal Palace, who got destroyed by Liverpool. That's the highest total on the slate. It's 2 3/4. Then we have Southampton is a plus 138 road favorite, which is barely anything. Against Fulham, that's a 2.5 total. And then Chelsea is a minus 103 current road favorite to Arsenal with the 2.5 total.
Yep.
But I mean, for me, like the team that I would be wanting to target the most is Aston Villa because they're a favorite at home and they're one of, if not the most friendly DFS teams there are. It's just a matter of, well, they're also priced for that.
They are. it's kind of astonishing to see some of the Aston Villa prices. They're appropriate, but to see like Arsenal and Chelsea on the slate, and Arsenal have obviously been a dumpster fire this year, but like to see them on the slate and Villa have the more expensive players is just, it's going to throw you a little bit. But you have to have at least one of them.
At least one, if not two.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the big question on this, truthfully, I think the big question on the slate is whether or not you play Jack Grealish.
Really?
What, do you think that's just an easy yes?
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, there are constructions that don't have him. It depends on how you want to fill your forward spots.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends, weirdly enough, it depends a lot on the Arsenal lineup.
Which is the late game.
Right. But Arsenal is actually one of the biggest underdogs this slate. But I mean, they're priced as a big underdog.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like I had no hesitation on Grealish.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not going to just automatically plug a 10K guy in the midfield spot and go, well, whatever the construction is, it doesn't matter. I just have to play whatever I want to play. Like, no, I still have to see. It's a matter of how you fill your forward spots, but there are plenty of forwards that are floor based that and cheap. So, I think up top, now we see the highest anytime goal scoring odds player on the slate is Watkins.
You're right.
At 7,200. So to me, personally, with the fact that we do have floor oriented players at forward, it takes guys like Giroud and Werner and Ings and Abraham, whoever starts for basically the Chelsea forwards. Like, if I'm going to play a Chelsea forward, why don't I just play Watkins at that point? If I'm going to play a goal-dependent player to begin with, right?
I agree.
I mean, it's more comes down to who starts for Aston Villa, and if it's Traore, you play Traore, right? He's been taking pretty much all of their set pieces, right?
Certainly a good amount.
Right, but I mean, I don't even mind El Ghazi. I mean, either of them, 8,700, 8,200. Like, do you prefer to take one of those guys or prefer to, because this slate you could dinky do?
If you're playing Grealish, you're obviously going to think more of the dinky do.
Right, well, that's hence why I bring it up. The question is, do you play Grealish? And then also we're going to see what we're going to do at defender. I mean, they priced the pricing on the slate is soft.
Yes, it is.
In general. I mean, Grealish is 10K with no set pieces, but he's the guy that has the highest floor without set pieces in the entire EPL.
He has the third. I put in my article, which I haven't published yet, but he either has the second or third most floor points in the league.
Right, and that's with like
minimal set
corner,
pieces, yeah.
Right, without taking free kicks or anything.
Yeah,
which is just absurd when you think about it. That
yes.
Over Madison, over KDB, who they could get 10 points just from set pieces at times.
Yeah,
and Grealish could get 10 points just from fouls drawn.
Well, so he leads the league in chances created. Like, he's ahead of Bruno. He's ahead of De Bruyne. He has 20 more fouls drawn than the next highest player. He has 56, and Sadio Mane has 36. And only 7 players in the league have taken more shots than him. So, like, you don't even need the set pieces.
Right, you don't need it. Right. His open play value is he truthfully has the highest open play value more than KDB.
Yes.
Right? I mean, once you take out set pieces, he would be the number one ranked player of floor.
Yes.
Wise.
Yeah. I think the difficulty with El Ghazi or Traore, more Traore just because we focus so much on set pieces, is I don't think you really want to play Traore over Grealish. Like, I think that's the decision.
Yeah, but you could play them both.
You could play both. But I'm like, if you're like, I'm going to fade Grealish because I want set pieces, I think that's a mistake. Because especially on this slate with forwards that we can, cheaper forwards with decent floors, that Grealish just, the combination of Grealish and a cheaper floor forward is better than Traore and the cheaper midfielder.
Right. I also like the fact, moving down at forward, that we're going to get the Crystal Palace lineup
Yeah.
immediately, so we could get a sense of Townsend, Eazy-E, Milivojevic, Patrick Van Aanholt, like kind of their set piece situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even sure at the prices that these guys are at that it's even a priority.
It's funny. I saw Eze's price, and I'm like, that seems pretty good. And the more I went into it, I'm like, it's fine, but like you don't need to play him at 6,800.
Right, because you take a look down. Let's go move even further down so we could put things into context. That we'll get Fulham's lineup, and we'll get to see, if Cavallero is back and he's 5,400 and he fits in a forward spot, like there you go. I mean, I'm not scared of Southampton really, so like I want to see that situation, and then obviously on Arsenal, you have Willian, who was a horrible disappointment the last game, but he's only 6,200, and Pepe is 5,600. So like you could put in Willian, and you could always switch to Pepe. You could play one of the two, and at their prices, even against Chelsea, like they're absolutely playable also for a four. So I mean, he could even say the same with Lookman if Cavallero isn't in.
That's exactly who I was going to bring up.
Right, because you take a look at Eazy-E at 6,800, and let's say you knew Eazy-E was going to be on all the set pieces. You'd look at Fulham's lineup and see if Lookman in with no Kearney and Cavallero. It's like, to me, Crystal Palace is the worst team on this slate.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I'd rather play Lookman. I'd rather play Willian or Pepe. So these Crystal Palace guys are not, they're fine. On a different slate, on a different pricing, you'd say, okay, let me plug them in, but like they're not a necessity at all.
No, yeah, Lookman was exactly the one I was going to bring up because I think it's possible he takes set pieces even if Cavallero does start.
Right.
Like he's been taking
and
enough.
Even,
but I think
also,
he just played
Cavallero starts. If Cavallero starts and he's 5,400 and he doesn't take a single set piece, he still has open play value.
Yes.
I mean, like I would play Cavallero as a midfield only, without set pieces at 5,400. Like it doesn't make him a great play, but it still makes him a viable one. You're smirking, like maybe that.
I think there's too much opportunity cost in midfield.
Okay, no, I agree with you, but I'm just saying in general, I want to put things in the context that Cavallero. If Cavallero was 6,800, I'd be like, okay, you're playing him because he fills a forward spot.
Yes.
Right. But yeah, the opportunity cost at midfield is tremendous. This slate. I mean, it's absolutely tremendous, and that's why like the dinky do is absolutely in play. Mm-hmm. You have to think there are basically three midfielders that you want to play,
mm-hmm.
and if you play all, and they're expensive enough, and if you play all three, like you can't play any other midfield. You can't play, and you can't pay up for El Ghazi or Traore. So essentially, one of those three midfielders, you have to put into context of: do I play that guy or do I play an Aston Villa forward? That's the question. And then, or you don't play Grealish. Right. That's why I said before, it's not a matter of like, oh, you have to plug in Grealish in. It's like, well, you can make a lineup with Traore in the forward spot and one of these forward eligible guys in the midfield spot and not have Grealish in your lineup. You can do that. More balanced. But should you? That's the question.
Right.
You say no.
Well, I do. It's funny, the idea of like, the opportunity cost is so huge at midfield, but the guy that we actually will throw out first is the best one.
Right.
Like that,
but he
that's
can throw
the thought.
Too also. I mean, I'm just putting things into context.
Yep.
So at midfield, those three guys, let's not bury the lead. Grealish at 10K, Ward-Prowse at 8,000, and Mason Mount at 7,700. You're getting the highest floor player in the league, minus set pieces, like we said before. You're getting the monopoly set piece taker for Southampton, who's favored over Fulham, and you're getting now with James and Chilwell gone, and if Ziyech isn't in the lineup, like this, Mason Mount is going to be the monopoly set piece taker for Chelsea, who's favored.
I don't know if he'll have a monopoly. Emerson might take a few.
Okay, you're right. Emerson could take some. You're right.
And you can play both.
And you can play both, right? And you can and you could play both, right? But I think because of that, like if you mentioned that, like if I'm going to play Emerson, maybe I could play Traore over Mason Mount. That's doable.
Yeah,
it's viable. I'm not saying it's viable. I'm not saying it's
Absolutely.
optimal. I'm just saying it's viable. right? That's perfectly fine. But to me, once you plug in those three midfielders, that just makes every other midfielder just like if you're going to play GPPs, like they're going to go heavily under-owned. But the problem is that like who do you play? like midfield is, we say the opportunity at midfield is high. It's not because there's like 8 guys you could play, so you might as well play 3 out of them. It's like, no, there's 3 guys to play, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other midfielders, you're not, you don't want to play. Like there's no other midfielders that I want to play.
I think the only
Kearney, if Lookman and Cavallero aren't in, maybe,
I was gonna say,
yes.
I think Kearney is a consideration if they're not in. I think I don't see him starting, and I can't really see you playing him. But I think Connor Howerhand makes sense if like Traore sit. Like there have been a ton of matches. They play again next week and the weekend after, so like we could see some rotation. But like Traore and El Ghazi have been so good that I don't see them coming out. But like, but the idea of like I'm not going to play Mason Mount so that I can play Connor Howerhand sounds nuts.
No, because he's a deep-lying midfielder. So his open play value is limited at 6,700. Like, right. Why am I paying 6,700 for him?
Right, exactly.
I'd almost rather play Willian in a midfield spot before I play him.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Because, like, John McGinn used to be good, but now he plays deeper.
Yeah.
I mean, he's okay. But now you're comparing people to defenders, and I'd rather fill defender spots than play these guys at 5,000. Yeah, I just don't see what construction are you making that you're playing a midfielder at this price?
You're playing like El Ghazi and Werner.
Oh, well, a GPP lineup. Yeah, sure, yeah. I get it. Okay.
But like we were saying before that like Watkins has the highest anytime goal scorer odds on the slate. But like they're not high enough where you're like, oh, I should play that guy in cash.
Right, he's plus 138. That's right. That's
right.
Not,
we
that's
usually
not,
have like 4 or 5 guys better than that. So, I mean, there's not a single total over 3.
Right. Truthfully, based on price and goal scoring odds, the best value is Mitrovic. Plus 195 for 6,000.
Right,
then you have Jay Adams plus 60, plus 225 at 6,700. But none of these, literally, like Watkins is plus 138, and then Werner's plus 180.
Yeah.
So we're still talking about like plus 180 is not really that good goal. Mm-hmm. But your goal equity is actually low for a guy that doesn't really do much else.
Except miss.
At least anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, Grealish's goal scoring odds is plus 250, and he could get 20 points without scoring a goal or an assist. Right?
It's just like the weird thing about this, about the midfielders, is we obviously look at Grealish and Ward-Prowse and Mount because of their floors. Like we generally focus on cash games and we explain how you go from there for GPPs. But like even a pivot from for a GPP lineup, like there's not a single midfield only player that I'm like, oh, that's who you should play. Like you're gonna pivot off of that guy to a player that's forward eligible, right, that is also midfield eligible. Exactly. That's how bad the midfielders are in this slate. But I don't think the defenders are something. Are you going to pay 5,900 for cash? In cash? It's funny because if I'm going to play cash, I might as well play Target for 600 cheaper. When I went into defender, I must have like scrolled by accident, and I didn't I must have scrolled beyond cash. And so I saw Target and I like kept going and I'm like, oh wow, there must be like a huge misprice with cash. And I'm like, I got all the way down and I'm like, oh wait a minute. And I like had to scroll all the way back up. I'm like, there he is. Okay, never mind. I'm not getting any value. I think everybody plays Emerson. Right. I think everyone plays at least one Chelsea fullback. Yeah. I mean, you never know. They could drag out Marcos Alonso. Yeah, whoever the non-Cesar Azpilicueta one is. Oh, so you have something against Cesar Azpilicueta? He doesn't take any set pieces. Who gives a crap? Because Emerson and Alonso do.
You still have to play. I'm talking about two. Like if Emerson and Azpilicueta are both in, like Emerson's better. But I mean, then who are you filling in the second defender spot? Maybe you're filling it with Azpilicueta also.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Right. I mean,
I just meant I wouldn't play Azpilicueta over Emerson or Alonso. Yeah.
Right. That's correct.
Yeah. There are plenty you can play. Like plenty.
Right. Right. I mean, I think defender is like, this is going to be one of the things in cash games where you're playing Emerson plus some other guy and a goal. It's one of those goalkeeper plus defender type of, like, that's the 2v2. And if your goalkeeper gets the 20 points, you win. And if you don't, you lose.
Yeah.
Right. Because you could play Kyle Walker-Peters. You could play Van Aanholt. You could play Robinson. You could play Tierney if he lines up as a fullback. You could play Bertrand even. You could play or any of these guys in this range. They're going to drag out Hector Bellerin maybe. I mean, you could possibly do that. I wouldn't, but you can.
Yeah, any of them. I think this is not a slate to be like, oh, let me just play Nathaniel Klein at 3,400.
No, you don't need the money. You don't need it. Right. Like, I don't think you'll ever get down there.
You're getting down there to play El Ghazi.
Right.
And Grealish.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary, though.
Right. Yeah, like last week. Who did we get last week? Because I was going to play a center back. I did play a center back. I played Yerry Mina, but then I also played.
You got a goal out of it, luck box. If I were to play a center back that slate, I would have played him, but I didn't.
He was like 25% owned. Like, it was an
flashbacks to the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it does.
Yeah.
And Yerry Mina particularly.
Yeah, it was Mina. Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
Right, where people are chasing these center back goals and then like, oh, he scored one goal, and they look in the game log and there's only one game. So it's like, this is the guy I play. And then the guy that's 8%, a center back that was 8% owned now on a 3-game World Cup slate is 22% owned. And then scores again.
Yeah.
And then ends up being 36% owned the next slate. And then you're sweating these set pieces on like, well, I gotta take the Swedish defender that takes penalties for 5,600.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, they're 5,600.
And you go, and he's 32% owned, and you're watching the game, and then you see them point to the spot, and you say the donkeys get bailed out again.
I think that World Cup was the greatest donkey success rate in the history of fantasy soccer. 3 weeks, just every bad play hit.
Right, exactly. Like almost every slate.
Every slate. 30%.
Guys, that's 3 times more owned than he should be for just a game log.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently then now he gets an assist. What is going on a deflection? Who knows? We'll wait for the next World Cup. It's coming soon.
I've never felt so like hopeless playing fantasy soccer than I did during that World Cup.
Because especially when we're going into that, this is what we've all been the past 4 years of playing soccer DFS.
Yep.
These new people are going to come in, right? We're going to get these big prize pools,
yeah.
Right? And then they get there.
Yeah, they took all our money.
Hopefully you come back. Let's the EPL contest. Let's go. Come on. Goalkeeper is. I'm going to figure Areola is going to be the highest owned goalkeeper in cash. Based on lineup construction, and if you play James Ward-Prowse, who cares?
Yeah, I mean, he's fine.
Right. I mean, it's goalkeeper.
Right.
Come on.
And that game has the lowest total. Although, yeah, I mean, like you said,
I'm just saying you don't have to pay up for Mendy at 5,400. I just don't think it's. I think all these goalkeepers are fine. I mean, a lot of these games could 1-1, and who cares? The goalkeeper's not going to matter.
Yeah. I mean, Guaita at 4,200 seems pretty good if you're not playing El Ghazi or Watkins. Like, Grealish can have his 20 fouls drawn. Guaita doesn't have to do a thing.
Right, true.
Although maybe you want him to do something, I guess. I don't know. I got nothing.
Right, it's goalkeeper. Play whoever you want.
Right. Yeah, that's all I got.
That's it. What else could we be talking?
I was going to say,
well,
there's really nothing.
There's 3 games. There you go. There's the positions, and then Grealish is going to put up a 7-point game, and we're all going to tilt.
Does it matter though? Does 80% at 7 points? There's 7 points, 80% matter?
I'm playing the 555 Boxing Day Classic thing. That may matter to me. Or maybe I'm fading him there. So maybe it will. Maybe it does matter to me the other way.
All right. If anybody has any follow-up for Jordan, you can find him on Twitter at Blenderhead. That's BlenderHD. I'm at RotoWire Andrew, available in the RotoWire Discord as well, which is open for all subscribers, where you can get your late-breaking Ivan Cavallero news. Just go to rotowire.com/chat for that. Thank you to SoRare for sponsoring this podcast. As a reminder, SoRare is a global fantasy football game where you can scout and collect officially licensed digital cards of football players. You can compose teams with your cards and compete in weekly tournaments. And if you're a skilled fantasy manager and ranked well, you can win money and card prizes in every tournament. SoRare has partnered with over 100 football clubs, including PSG, Juventus, and Bayern Munich. Recently added Real Madrid as well. So visit sorare.com, that's SORARE.com to sign up, or use the link in our episode description to receive 10 free cards. Jordan, thank you for all that help, and good luck on Boxing Day.